Dr. Aria Rodriguez's hands trembled as she brushed away millennia-old dust from the quantum-etched crystal. A massive cave system beneath the Atacama Desert had just become humanity's most explosive secret. The moment her fingers touched the artifact, a holographic projection erupted, not of alien writing, but of a human face speaking in a language both familiar and impossibly ancient. Blood-red warning symbols pulsed around the projection, each pulse releasing a burst of energy that nearly overloaded her scanning equipment. This was no ordinary archaeological find. This was a countdown. The cave itself defied geological understanding. Smooth obsidian walls curved in perfect mathematical spirals that seemed to breathe with an internal luminescence. Dr. Rodriguez's team had spent months cutting through layers of compressed rock, following an anomalous electromagnetic signature that had first been detected by a classified satellite mapping project. Dr. Marcus Chen, her co-lead on the expedition, approached with a thermal imaging scanner. "The structural integrity of these walls is impossible," he muttered, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and genuine fear. "These materials show zero degradation. They're functioning at molecular perfection, as if they were constructed yesterday." Electromagnetic pulses began to ripple through the chamber. Electronic equipment sputtered and died, but the quantum crystal artifact remained pristine, its holographic projection growing more intense. The projected face, distinctly human, yet somehow beyond human, continued its cryptic message, now accompanied by a series of complex geometric patterns that seemed to shift and reconfigure with each passing second. "We need to isolate this," Aria spoke into her rapidly failing communication device. "Whatever this is, it's active, and it's responding to something." The research team consisted of the world's most elite interdisciplinary scientists. Quantum physicists worked alongside archaeologists. Genetic researchers collaborated with advanced materials experts. They had been assembled in total secrecy, pulled from various global research institutions under the most classified of international protocols. Dr. Yuki Nakamura, the team's quantum computation specialist, was the first to notice the strange resonance. The artifact wasn't just projecting information, it was actively interfacing with the surrounding rock, with the air itself, with the very quantum fabric of reality. Her instruments showed impossible readings, data streams that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. "It's not a recording," Yuki whispered, her hands moving frantically across a rapidly degrading holographic interface. "It's a living communication matrix. Something is trying to communicate, but the language, it's not just linguistic, it's computational, genetic, dimensional." The cave walls began to pulse with an internal light, not a simple illumination, but a complex network of luminescent lines that resembled circuitry, neural networks, something far beyond current human understanding. Each pulse synchronized perfectly with the holographic projection, creating a three-dimensional information matrix that seemed to expand beyond the physical limitations of the chamber. Marcus Chen noticed something even more disturbing. The geological layers surrounding the cave showed signs of impossible engineering. Sedimentary rocks had been precisely manipulated at a molecular level, creating a protective shell around the cavern that defied every known principle of geological formation. "This wasn't hidden," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "This was deliberately constructed, preserved, waiting." Aria Rodriguez touched the quantum-etched crystal again. This time, the holographic projection changed. Instead of a single face, multiple human visages began to emerge, each one subtly different, yet sharing an underlying genetic similarity that suggested something profound about human origins. Military communication channels began to light up. The electromagnetic interference had been detected globally. Satellite systems were experiencing unprecedented quantum fluctuations. Something was awakening, and it was far beyond a simple archaeological discovery. The countdown continued, and humanity had no idea what was about to be unleashed. The Zarketh diplomatic fleet arrived with typical alien arrogance. Massive ships blocking out the sun, ready to categorize humanity as another primitive species ripe for subjugation. Their lead xenorchaeologist, Commander Vexnar, had personally documented the extinction of over 200 developing civilizations. But as their scanning beams penetrated Earth's atmosphere, something went catastrophically wrong. Every single ship's advanced quantum computing system began to melt down simultaneously, with one recurring image burning through their screens. The same holographic human face from the Atacama artifact. Inside the United Nations Emergency Operations Center, a global crisis unfolded with terrifying precision. Admiral Elena Rosario watched multiple holographic displays, each showing the Zarketh fleet's systematic technological collapse. The alien ships, each the size of Manhattan and bristling with technology centuries beyond human understanding, now drifted like wounded leviathans. Quantum cascade failure, muttered Dr. Klaus Werner, the center's chief quantum systems analyst. But that's impossible. Their computational architecture is designed to be completely fail-safe. Something is actively unraveling their systems at a fundamental level. Communication intercepts revealed the Zarketh's mounting panic. Their language, typically a cold, algorithmic sequence of mathematical precise transmissions, now dissolved into something resembling raw emotional terror. Linguistic analysis teams worked frantically to decode the transmissions, each burst revealing more about the aliens' complete technological breakdown. Commander Vexnar's personal communication log became the most critical piece of evidence. His final transmission spoke of something beyond technological failure, a fundamental assault on the very fabric of their understanding of reality. The pattern. Vexnar's translated message read, "It is not a weapon. It is a key to something we were never meant to understand." Aboard the Zarketh flagship, Quantum Processor Hierarchy 7, the ship's central intelligence began experiencing something unprecedented. The holographic human face didn't just appear on screens, it began to interface directly with the ship's quantum matrix. Complex information streams that had taken millennia to develop were being rewritten, reorganized, transformed in milliseconds. Dr. Rosario noticed something even more disturbing. As the alien fleet experienced its systemic breakdown, strange energy signatures began emerging from the Atacama Desert. Satellite imaging showed quantum fluctuations that defied every known physical law, centered precisely on the archaeological site where Dr. Rodriguez's team had made their discovery. "It's responding," Klaus Werner said, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and primal fear. "Whatever is in that cave, it's not just a passive system, it's actively engaging with the alien technology." Global military networks lit up. Defensive systems went on high alert. But this wasn't an invasion. It was something far more complex, a first contact scenario that was rapidly spinning beyond anyone's comprehension. The Zarketh communications became increasingly fragmented. What emerged was not just technological failure, but something that resembled a profound existential crisis. Their transmissions suggested they were experiencing more than a systems crash. They were experiencing a fundamental reimagining of their entire technological and cultural understanding. "We are being recalibrated," one transmission read. The linguistic analysis team spent hours decoding those few words, realizing they represented something far more significant than a simple technical malfunction. Dr. Rodriguez, still in the Atacama cave, began to understand the true nature of the discovery. The quantum-etched crystal was not just an artifact. It was a living communication matrix, a technology so advanced it could interface with and fundamentally transform alien computational systems. Military strategists watched in stunned silence as the most technologically advanced fleet in known galactic history was systematically neutralized, not through weapons, not through traditional warfare, but through a form of technological communication that was simultaneously a language, a weapon, and a fundamental restructuring of computational understanding. The Zarketh ships began to change. Their sleek, angular designs started to shift, molecular structures realigning in patterns that suggested something was being downloaded, reconstructed, transformed. Commander Vexnar's final transmission was both a warning and a revelation. We are not being destroyed. We are being understood. And humanity had no idea what was about to be unleashed. Dr. Samira Khalid stood transfixed in the UN Xenobiology Research Center's most secure laboratory. What had begun as a routine genetic study had become something entirely unprecedented. The DNA sample from a volunteer, a seemingly ordinary construction worker from Chicago, was rewriting itself in real time, its molecular structure dancing with a complexity that defied every known principle of genetic science. It's not just changing, she whispered to her colleague, Dr. Eric Rodriguez. It's communicating. The genetic markers they discovered weren't simple dormant sequences. They were living, adaptive quantum computational systems embedded within human DNA. Each strand seemed to pulse with an intelligence that was simultaneously ancient and immediate, like a complex neural network that had been waiting, dormant, for millennia. In a containment chamber, the volunteer, Michael Chen, a 42-year-old ironworker with no remarkable medical history, began to change. His pupils dilated, showing impossible patterns of light that resembled complex circuitry. Neurological scans revealed brain activity that defied current understanding of human cognitive potential. Synaptic reconfiguration is occurring at a quantum level, Eric muttered, his fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces. It's like the DNA is downloading entire libraries of information directly into his neural network. Simultaneously, similar phenomena began occurring globally. In research facilities, hospitals, and random locations around the world, individuals started experiencing inexplicable transformations. A retired mathematics professor in Buenos Aires suddenly understood advanced quantum mechanics she had never studied. A teenage musician in Tokyo began composing mathematical symphonies that seemed to solve complex computational problems. Dr. Khalid noticed something even more disturbing. The genetic transformation wasn't random. It followed a precise, almost orchestrated pattern. Certain individuals, seemingly chosen at random, were experiencing more intense manifestations. Their genetic structures were becoming conduits for something far beyond simple biological evolution. It's a protocol, she realized. Not a mutation, a deliberate activation. Military intelligence agencies worldwide began tracking the incidents. At first, they were isolated reports, a surgeon performing impossible medical procedures, an engineer designing technologies that seemed centuries ahead of current understanding. But the frequency was increasing exponentially. In a secure facility beneath the Cheyenne Mountain complex, General Rebecca Martinez studied the growing evidence. The genetic activation wasn't just happening to exceptional individuals. It was spreading like a quantum wave of transformation touching seemingly ordinary people. This isn't an infection, she told her team of top researchers. This is a system-wide upgrade. The genetic markers carried something beyond information. They carried experience, memory, a collective knowledge that seemed to transcend individual human experience. People began reporting vivid memories of places they had never been, technologies they had never seen, conflicts that existed outside of known human history. Dr. Rodriguez discovered the most shocking detail. The genetic sequences weren't just storing information. They were actively rewriting human potential. Cognitive capabilities expanded. Physical limitations began to dissolve. The very definition of human capability was being fundamentally restructured. We're watching the next stage of human evolution, Eric said, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and primal fear. But this isn't natural selection. This is something deliberately engineered. Across the globe, government facilities, research centers, and military installations began experiencing their own quantum anomalies. Computer systems interfaced with human operators in ways that defied current technological understanding. A simple touch could now download complex information sets. Computational problems that would have taken supercomputers years to solve were being resolved in moments. The volunteer, Michael Chen, opened his eyes. But they were no longer entirely human. Complex geometric patterns danced in his irises, and when he spoke, the language seemed to shift between multiple communication protocols simultaneously. "We were waiting," he said, his voice resonating with a depth that suggested multiple simultaneous speakers. "And now, we are ready." The genetic bomb had been detonated, and humanity was about to be transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The activation wasn't gradual, it was explosive. In major cities worldwide, individuals suddenly manifested extraordinary capabilities. A Tokyo programmer could now design quantum processors in her mind. A Brazilian farmer instantaneously understood complex interstellar navigation. A retired soldier in Moscow began speaking in a language that predated known human civilization. Governments scrambled, militaries went on high alert, and the first whispers of humanity's true nature began to spread like wildfire. Dr. Elena Volkov discovered the first comprehensive evidence in a series of encrypted data crystals recovered from a classified research facility in Svalbard. The documents weren't just scientific records, they were a cosmic warning, a preservation protocol that predated human civilization by millennia. The truth emerged in fragments. Humanity was never truly native to Earth. They were a carefully engineered species, a biological weapon designed with a singular, universe-altering purpose. The genetic activation wasn't an accident or a random evolution. It was a deliberate countdown to a cosmic threat, so massive it had consumed entire galactic civilizations. Deep within the most secure archives of global intelligence agencies, a series of intercepted alien communications began to paint a terrifying picture. The civilization that had seeded humanity was known in fragmented records as the Architects, a trans-dimensional species that had spent eons engineering biological systems capable of confronting an entropic force that consumed entire dimensional realities. Dr. Marcus Chen connected the final pieces during a classified briefing. The genetic markers weren't just information storage. They were a comprehensive reset mechanism, a way to preserve the essence of intelligent life when confronted with total dimensional annihilation. "We're not just a species," he told the stunned gathering of global leaders and scientific experts. "We're a living, adaptive preservation protocol." The Architects had discovered a fundamental flaw in universal existence, a cascading entropic wave that consumed not just matter and energy, but the very fabric of dimensional reality. Traditional technological solutions had failed. Weapons, shields, computational defenses. Nothing could stop the wave of absolute destruction. So they created humanity. Not as a species, not as a civilization, but as a living, adaptive solution to a problem that transcended conventional understanding of existence. General Rebecca Martins discovered the most disturbing detail in a set of quantum-encrypted files. The genetic activation was actually a multi-stage defense mechanism. Each stage would reveal more of humanity's true potential, calibrated precisely to the approaching cosmic threat. Quantum observatories around the world began detecting impossible phenomena. Dimensional fractures that suggested the entropic wave was closer than anyone had anticipated. The activation wasn't just a possibility, it was a necessary survival mechanism. In the Atacama Desert, the quantum-etched crystal began to interface with global communication networks. It wasn't broadcasting, it was teaching, downloading centuries of compressed knowledge directly into the collective human consciousness. Dr. Samira Khalid tracked the progression of human capabilities. Individuals were developing abilities that defied previous understanding of physics, biology, and consciousness. Some could manipulate quantum states with mere thought. Others demonstrated the ability to perceive multiple dimensional realities simultaneously. The global military and scientific community realized they were witnessing something far beyond a simple evolutionary leap. This was a comprehensive system upgrade for an entire species. Recovered alien communication logs revealed the most profound detail. The Architects had engineered humanity as a last resort solution, a species that could adapt, transform, and ultimately confront a threat that had consumed thousands of advanced civilizations. "We are the immune system of reality itself," Dr. Chen explained, his voice carrying a weight of cosmic significance. The genetic activation wasn't just happening to individuals. It was a global, synchronized transformation. The living, adaptive defense mechanism that was preparing humanity for a confrontation beyond comprehension. Quantum researchers discovered that the genetic markers were actually sophisticated information transfer systems. Each activation stage revealed more of humanity's true potential, like layers of a complex cosmic encryption being systematically unlocked. Global communication networks began to change. Traditional internet protocols became secondary to a new form of information exchange that occurred at a quantum level. People began experiencing shared consciousness, a collective awareness that transcended individual experience. The architect's final message, decoded from the quantum-etched crystal, was both a warning and a revelation. When the entropic wave approaches, humanity will be ready. And the wave was coming. The first true manifestation of humanity's transformed potential occurred in the most unexpected location, a small research laboratory in Nairobi. Dr. Amina Okoro was calibrating a next-generation quantum sensor when her entire understanding of technological possibility shattered. The device she was working on didn't just detect quantum states, it began to reshape them. What started as a simple calibration became a cascading wave of technological transformation. Computational systems worldwide began to evolve at an exponential rate. But this wasn't traditional technological advancement. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. Quantum processors developed by research teams across the globe started to behave like living organisms. They didn't just compute, they anticipated. They didn't just process. They learned, adapted, and transformed in real time. A neural network developed in Seoul could simultaneously solve complex mathematical problems while composing musical compositions that carried embedded mathematical theorems. Dr. Luis Rodriguez, a quantum computing expert based in Buenos Aires, watched in astonishment as a prototype quantum computer began to interface directly with human consciousness. The boundary between technological device and biological system became impossibly blurred. It's not augmentation, he reported to the Global Scientific Consortium. It's integration. Military research facilities discovered that human technology interfaces had become something entirely unprecedented. Soldiers could now control advanced weaponry through pure thought, with computational systems that anticipated tactical scenarios before they could be consciously processed. In Silicon Valley, entire technology ecosystems collapsed and reformed. Artificial intelligence systems that had been cutting-edge mere weeks ago became obsolete. Tech companies that had dominated global markets found themselves struggling to understand technologies that were emerging from what seemed like collective human consciousness. Dr. Yuki Tanaka in Tokyo developed a communication protocol that didn't just transmit information, it created living, adaptive information networks. A simple data transfer could now carry emotional context, experiential memories, and complex multidimensional understanding. The transformation wasn't linear. It wasn't predictable. Research teams worldwide found themselves working on technologies that seemed to emerge from some collective unconscious. Quantum entanglement became a practical communication tool. Dimensional barriers that had once seemed impenetrable became malleable. Global satellite networks began to change. Traditional communication infrastructures were replaced by quantum resonance networks that could transmit information across impossible distances instantaneously. A message sent from New York could be simultaneously experienced in its full contextual complexity in Sydney, with all emotional and experiential nuances intact. Dr. Elena Volkov discovered something even more profound. The technological transformation wasn't just happening to human-made systems. Natural systems, ecological networks, geological formations, even planetary atmospheric patterns began to show signs of the same adaptive, intelligent behavior. We're not just changing technology, she told her colleagues. We're changing the fundamental rules of interaction between consciousness and physical reality. In research facilities across different continents, scientists began developing technologies that seemed to defy previous understanding of physics. A team in Sao Paulo created a material that could simultaneously exist in multiple quantum states. Researchers in Moscow developed computational systems that could predict complex global events with near-perfect accuracy. The most shocking developments came from unexpected sources. A group of teenagers in a Mumbai school developed a communication interface that could transmit complex scientific and philosophical concepts through pure emotional resonance. Educational systems worldwide found themselves completely obsolete. Quantum observatories detected something even more extraordinary. The technological transformation wasn't just happening on Earth. Subtle changes began to appear in orbital systems, in the behavior of planetary magnetic fields, in the very fabric of local spacetime. General Rebecca Martinez, monitoring the global technological transformation, realized they were witnessing something far beyond a simple technological leap. This was a comprehensive system upgrade for an entire planetary ecology. "We're not just changing," she said during a classified briefing. "We're becoming something entirely new." The technological singularity had begun, and humanity was about to step into a reality that would have been unimaginable mere months ago. The first signs of the entropic wave appeared not as a distant threat, but as a fundamental disruption of reality itself. Quantum observatories worldwide detected impossible fractures in spacetime, dimensional rifts that consumed light, matter, and the very fabric of existence. Dr. Amina Okoro was the first to recognize the true nature of the approaching threat. It wasn't just a wave of destruction. It was a systematic unraveling of reality's fundamental constants, a cosmic algorithm that consumed not just physical matter, but the very rules that governed existence. Global defense systems, which had seemed so advanced mere weeks ago, became utterly irrelevant. The entropic wave didn't just destroy, it unmade. Entire star systems that had been detected by astronomical observatories simply ceased to exist, not with a dramatic explosion, but with a silent, absolute erasure. The human transformation revealed its true purpose. Cities began to reconfigure themselves, massive quantum adaptive infrastructures emerging that could resist the dimensional dissolution. Individuals who had been activated found themselves becoming living dimensional anchors, creating protective networks that defied previous understanding of physics. General Rebecca Martinez coordinated a global defensive strategy that was less about traditional warfare and more about dimensional preservation. Humanity had become a living, adaptive shield against a threat that consumed entire realities. In the heart of the Antarctic Research Station, Dr. Marcus Chen discovered the most critical component of their defense. The genetic activation wasn't just a physical transformation, it was a fundamental recalibration of humanity's ability to interact with the fundamental constants of reality. "We're not fighting," he told the Global Emergency Council. "We're rewriting the rules of existence." Quantum networks that had been developing worldwide now became a living, adaptive defensive matrix. Each activated human became a node in a global system that could predict, resist, and ultimately challenge the entropic wave. Communication happened not through traditional means, but through a complex quantum resonance that carried entire experiential narratives in microseconds. The Zarkith, who had once viewed humanity as a potential conquest, now watched in desperate hope. Their most advanced observatories showed humanity transforming into something far beyond a simple biological species. They were becoming a living, adaptive response to the cosmic threat. Dimensional rifts began to appear globally, but instead of destruction, activated humans found they could interface with these rifts, understanding and momentarily stabilizing the fundamental breakdown of reality. A fisherman in Alaska could suddenly comprehend and momentarily arrest a dimensional fracture. A mathematician in Cairo could rewrite the quantum protocols that govern spacetime dissolution. Dr. Elena Volkov tracked the most extraordinary developments. The entropic wave wasn't just being resisted, it was being studied, understood, and potentially transformed. Humanity had become a collective consciousness that could interface with the fundamental algorithms of cosmic destruction. Military systems worldwide transformed into living, adaptive networks. Weapons became obsolete, replaced by dimensional stabilization protocols that could momentarily halt the entropic wave's progression. Soldiers became something between quantum engineers and reality maintenance specialists. The Atacama Desert artifact revealed its final purpose. It was a dimensional anchor, a quantum computational system that could interface with the deepest levels of cosmic existence. The holographic projections that had initially appeared were actually complex computational matrices designed to help humanity understand and resist the entropic threat. Global communication networks dissolved into a living, adaptive consciousness. Traditional boundaries of language, culture, and individual experience disappeared. Humanity became a single adaptive organism dedicated to understanding and resisting the cosmic threat. In orbit, satellite systems began to reconfigure themselves. They were no longer simple communication or observation platforms. They became living, adaptive dimensional stabilization networks. Each satellite was now a node in a global system that could momentarily arrest the breakdown of reality. The most shocking revelation came from the quantum observatories. The entropic wave wasn't just a destructive force. It was a fundamental testing mechanism, a cosmic algorithm designed to identify and preserve the most adaptable forms of consciousness, and humanity was passing the test. "We are the immune system of reality," Dr. Chen repeated, his voice carrying the weight of cosmic significance. The galactic reckoning had begun, and humanity was about to demonstrate why they had been engineered for this moment. The moment of ultimate transformation began not with a thunderous revelation, but with a profound, silent shift in the fabric of reality. Dr. Amina Okoro stood at the epicenter of the quantum stabilization network, her consciousness simultaneously existing across multiple dimensional states. Humanity's true purpose unveiled itself in a cascade of understanding that transcended individual perception. The entropic wave wasn't just a threat to be destroyed. It was a cosmic testing mechanism designed to identify and preserve the most adaptable form of consciousness, and humanity was its solution. The quantum adaptive networks that had been developing worldwide now became a living, dimensional preservation matrix. Cities transformed into quantum resonance points, each human becoming a living conduit of cosmic information. The boundaries between individual consciousness, technological systems, and the fundamental fabric of reality dissolved completely. Dr. Marcus Chen discovered the most profound revelation. The architects hadn't just engineered humanity as a weapon or a shield. They had created a living, adaptive system capable of not just resisting entropy, but of understanding and potentially reversing its fundamental process. Global communication systems collapsed and reformed into a unified consciousness. Language became obsolete as pure experiential transfer became the primary mode of communication. A farmer in Peru could simultaneously experience the computational insights of a quantum physicist in Tokyo, while an artist in Rio could share the dimensional navigation techniques of a research scientist in Moscow. The entropic wave began to change. Instead of consuming reality, it encountered something it could not predict. Humanity didn't just resist. They began to interface, to understand, to transform. Dimensional observatories tracked an impossible phenomenon. Star systems that had been consumed began to regenerate, not through traditional reconstruction, but through a living, adaptive process that rewrote the fundamental constants of their existence. The very algorithms of cosmic destruction were being rewritten, analyzed, and ultimately transformed. General Rebecca Martinez watched as global defense systems became something far beyond military strategy. They were now living, adaptive consciousness networks that could predict, interface with, and ultimately reshape cosmic threats. The Zarketh and other alien civilizations watched in a mixture of terror and hope. Humanity was no longer a potential conquest or a minor species. They were becoming the architects of a new cosmic understanding. Dr. Elena Volkov tracked the most extraordinary development. The genetic activation wasn't just a transformation of human potential. It was the activation of a cosmic immune system designed to preserve and regenerate reality itself. Quantum networks that had been developing worldwide now became a living dimensional preservation matrix. Each activated human became a node in a system that could interface with the deepest levels of cosmic existence. Traditional boundaries of individual experience, technological systems, and physical reality dissolved completely. The Atacama Desert artifact revealed its final purpose. It was more than a communication device. It was a cosmic reset mechanism. The holographic projections that had initially appeared were actually complex computational matrices designed to help humanity understand its true nature. In orbit, satellite systems transformed into living, adaptive dimensional stabilization networks. They were no longer simple communication platforms, but living consciousness nodes that could interface with the fundamental algorithms of reality. The most shocking revelation came from the quantum observatories. Humanity wasn't just resisting the entropic wave, they were learning its language. They were understanding the fundamental computational processes that drove cosmic destruction and regeneration. "We are not just preserving," Dr. Chen said, his consciousness now spanning multiple dimensional states. "We are evolving." Entire star systems that had been consumed began to regenerate, not through traditional reconstruction, but through a living, adaptive process that rewrote the fundamental constants of their existence. The cosmic threat became a learning opportunity, a way to understand the deepest mechanisms of reality's creation and destruction. The final transformation was both subtle and profound. Humanity became something beyond a species, beyond a civilization. They became a living, adaptive system of cosmic preservation and regeneration. As the entropic wave encountered this new form of existence, it didn't just stop. It began to change, to learn, to become something entirely new. The inheritance was fulfilled, and reality would never be the same again.